So, hi, Alan, and welcome to the Ordinary Visionaries interviews. And Alan, the what I call an ordinary visionary is someone who has good ideas and actually puts them into actions to make a difference. And that can be, just about anything from self-employed professionals, business people, um, not people like Elon Musk. He's an extraordinary visionary. Just,
Yeah.
everybody knows him. But there are so many ordinary visionaries that have done great things. And so I wanted to interview them. And many of them are my past clients, people I've met over the years that are really remarkable people. And you are one of those people. So this
Well,
is our first I'll get it right, my first ordinary visionary interview with you. And so the first question is, what would you say makes you an ordinary visionary?
yeah. First of all, thank you for having me, and I'm flattered. And you're pretty visionary yourself. You've done a whole lot of things. I met you at a uh, well. I always I'm always searching for what can I do better? How can I
Did you find me
improve?
online?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Um, I we worked together when I had an advertising agency,
yeah.
and I got in the advertising business. I've always been an artist,
But before
self.
you get into any of the stories, which we can get into, just in a nutshell, what makes me an ordinary visionary is what? What is it about you that makes you an ordinary visionary?
My curiosity and my constant searching for myself.
Hmm.
I'm constantly looking for who am I and what makes me me.
So,
So
so tell us a bit about your background.
okay, so when I self-identified as an artist when I was very young. I was in third grade, and the teacher asked us to draw something, and I drew drew something, and they loved it, and they made me take it around to the whole school, and everybody went, ooh, ah. And I went, oh, I'm an artist. Because prior to that time, I was the third child, uh, unwelcomed by my older brothers, and I didn't have an identity. So now I had an identity. They didn't like it, but I did. so, uh, but I wanted to succeed. And when I was in high school, I was a screw up. And but it was in the this was in the early '60s, and advertising was going through its renaissance days of Mad Men. And I would look at television. I would go, oh, people get paid to do that. I want to do that, and so I did. Um, and
So you
so
joined an agency after college?
I never went to college. I tried it, but I
Oh,
was in
you
a
skipped college
hurry.
like I did.
I skipped college. I skipped everything. I never followed the rules, and I never went to art school. And now I'm a recognized artist. So I kind of took a lot of detours in my life. And when I met you, I was self-employed. I tried working in big advertising agencies for like 10, 12 years. And then eventually I just said, you know what, screw you. I'm going to go sell my services to whoever wants to buy them. I don't need you. I didn't like the politics. I hated it. I've always done my own thing and kind of try to uh, dance to the tune of my own drummer. Um, and I guess that's what makes me an ordinary visionary is people who are uh, self actualized and self driven
Yeah,
and don't need.
self-actualized, self-driven, self-employed.
Yeah.
So you started your own small shop. Is that what you did,
Started
essentially?
my own. Well, I freelanced for a long time,
Okay.
but freelancing, I was a hired gun,
Yeah.
and there were a bunch of us, and they would pay us, and it was lucrative. They'd pay us for the day. and we would go away, and that way I didn't have to get involved in their craziness.
Right.
Uh, but it was always save the account, pitch the account. So it was always like you're always working on stuff that's not very rewarding. And if you did something that was pretty good and successful, you're never going to get any credit for it. You're going to be long gone by the
Right.
time it gets made. And they're not going to say that a freelancer did it. So eventually, I got my own accounts and I started my own shop and didn't do that anymore. And I ran a pretty good shop, but not a very successful business. I wasn't a great businessman. I was a good creative guy, but I it wasn't. So that's when I met you, and you helped me enormously in redefining myself and actually recreating my whole business vision uh, from being a service that was like any other service
Right.
to actually becoming a service business that had a unique product.
Right. I
So I went.
remember when you created your materials and your new logo. I can't remember.
It went way beyond. So basically, before I was an advertising company slash design company, and they would tell me what they wanted. I would clean it up and make it fancy. Um, but begging the question and doing some research to find out what people wanted from me, they kept saying that we want results, and I'm going like, okay, what does that mean? And what it meant for me was, well, I came from the big leagues, and my mission in life was to turn you into a leader in your given industry, or at least present you as that. But I can't deliver results if all I'm doing is making fancy, telling pardon my French, but shiny shit. Because, you know, it, I changed my words and my language
Right.
from stuff that was all about me to stuff that
Right.
was about them and about
Right.
what they get. And what I came up with was realized market leadership. And so, oh, that sounds like a good result. So I started to change my language to realize market leadership, and I did that for all. Started promoting that and coming up with,
So how many years
the
did you do since when once you changed that orientation? How many years did you do that?
about 10.
About 10 years. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I went from being a quote unquote advertising agency. So back up. So realized market leadership, but I was still doing the same thing, just with different language. And then after about like 6 months, I said, well, wait a minute. Uh, the message is right, but the messenger is wrong because I can't really deliver that in my current, um, in the way you look at me. So how could I deliver? So what turns somebody into a leader? And that was the question. And then the question was, well, leadership really turns you into a leader is having clarity of vision and the courage to stick by your knitting,
Right.
like Steve Jobs. I mean, this is what we do here. You don't want to be here, don't be here. So I kind of changed my whole tool set to offering uh, research and um, coaching and a whole new invented ordinary visionary skill set. I had to teach myself new skills, and it was a whole lot of fun. But it was hard to sell. So you could only sell it to, oh, well, first of all, people who could afford it. So we went to medium-sized companies. I can't fix Ford, but I could do it for a mid-size manufacturing or service business,
Right.
because the CEO there is either comes from marketing or it comes from production. So if they come from production, then they're bean counters. But if they're from marketing, then they're visionaries a little bit. But they don't know how to be a CEO. They were never trained in that.
Can you give
So,
me a story of one company that you worked with that was sort of like, here we are. And you said,
sure,
we want to help you achieve market leadership
sure.
using this process. And sort of, how did you envision that? How did that come about? How did that, for that particular client?
So I had a large chemical company as a client,
Okay.
and then this is an ideal one. So they were making raw material chemicals that would be used in health and beauty aids, shampoos and cosmetics and things like that,
Right.
and by extension, many other industries too. But they competed with Monsanto and DuPont and people like that, and they were a pretty large company. And when I started with them, I was doing all the materials. They were my biggest account, and I would make ads and brochures and a lot of trade show booths, whatever. Um, and then I kind of embarked on. I started doing this. I did work for myself, and then I used them as a guinea pig. And we did a piece of research where we could measure against them, compare them to a direct competitor and the 800-pound gorilla in their industry. And it was telephone interviews that were done in maybe 25 different categories. And one of the telling questions was, well, how important is this company? It was a blind survey, and it was sponsored by media that they would advertise in. So it wouldn't be coming from the company, it would be coming in the industry. So they would go to the people who they sold to. And one of the questions that we would ask was, well, how important is this company to the survival of your business? And the answer for all the companies was not. You're not that important to us.
It's kind of
So
quite a rude awakening, right? How important are we? Well, not really.
yeah, and they thought they were the bee's knees. So we went
Yeah.
back and said, well, here are the results. And the CEO was not too thrilled with that. And I said, well, this is an opportunity. If you could change that response, because it's the same response for the big gorilla too. It's the same response for all of you. So they think you're a commodity. If they don't get it from, I won't get it from you. I'll get it from them. And they'll shut price. I said, so if you could change that, then you own the keys to the universe. So we recommended that they start doing webinars, that they start doing educational. They always did, but step it up. Become a service business. You're a manufacturer, but every business is in the service business. You're serving somebody, and if you provide service that they can't get elsewhere, you got them for life. They love you, so that's why they would stick with you.
That's interesting. So they started to do webinars, educational webinars. Did they charge for those, or those were just free to their clients?
Free.
Yeah.
They became industry experts on different things.
So it's interesting that what they did wasn't an income source, but it made them stand out as different
Sure, sure. So they would
because you have,
advertise to their clients the future of hair care,
yeah,
or cosmetic trends.
right.
What Pantone does. Here's the colors for next year. So and then also do focus groups, which are by invitation only. Fly people in, key clients, and have them invent you new products. Have
Have them
them,
invent your new product.
yeah, get
Yeah,
them
why not?
involved.
What do you need? What are you looking for? What's missing for you?
Exactly.
All that kind of stuff.
So what you're doing is you're providing service. When
Yeah.
I started working with them in, I guess, 1990, about 1990, they were doing about $40 million in sales in the United States. When I left, I kind of resigned. I just shut my business down to go do something else. They were $3 billion worldwide. So I would say
Too
I'm
bad you
not.
didn't get a percentage of that.
Well, I got I got the CEO's loyalty. But
Yeah.
then what happened is, new people came in and things started to change, and I saw the writing on the wall, and I thought, what would happen if I didn't do this anymore? And the answer was, you won't die. Okay, I won their loyalty, which was good because when I contacted you, they were my biggest client. I didn't know how I was different than the people down the street from me. I've been in business long enough to realize that what people want is they don't necessarily. I would advertise myself as the best, you know, but they don't. People don't necessarily need the best, or they don't. I'm not looking for the best. What I'm looking for is, can you do what I want? My pipes burst. Could you come and fix them?
Yes.
How much is it? And you're not going to be a pain in the ass to deal with. So what they want is they want you want to know competency. Are your prices fair? And you're not going to be a jerk. And that's kind of what you want from any supplier. That's what we want. So I said, well, okay, if that's the case, then they don't. I'm winning all these awards. They don't give a shit about the awards. So what? So. That's when I changed the language. And then I kind of got to a point where, well, yeah, creative's good because you want to cut through the clutter, but it isn't just about that. It's about more than that. And it's just about more than me. It's about you. Can I help you? And
It seems that you really helped your clients develop relationships in the industry
exactly.
in a
And
way that they didn't have before.
And then I created a model that I could use. So I called it the brand renewal process. So basically it started with, can we do a little quantitative and qualitative research to find out what are they saying behind your back? Where do you stand now? And then how do you compare with the competition? And let's put it into real terms, I'm not making it up. I didn't say it, they did. Next, can we then look at your brand and look at the you'll like this from where your background. So the brand is what is it? How do you define it practically in practical terms? What's it like? What's the personality of it? And what's the benefit of it? What is it? What do you get if what do I get out of working with that brand?
Right.
So can you take that and see what exists and then deconstruct it? And then within the confines of what you are, can you blue sky it, and can you come up with ideas that can redefine those things? So because you can't do anything about what is now or what was, you can't fix that. You can only fix the future. So can you redefine what you want it to be practically? What can it be like, and what can it offer? And then I learned to include in these brainstorming sessions people who were recent converts to the brand because they're closest to why they chose it. So before we just do like the brand ambassadors or the people who were working in the company. But no, if you get customers involved too in those sessions, well,
Yeah.
they're fresh and they know what they need. So that's kind of the same thing I did for the chemical company, which is invite them to a focus group.
Right.
Buy in, fly them in, buy them dinner. So we did that, and then from that we would craft a new DNA statement. Then the DNA statement is kind of what we used to use in
Is
Madison
that something
Avenue.
you came up with?
Sure.
So yeah,
So,
the DNA. What's the DNA marketing DNA of your
so
company?
marketing DNA was where are you going?
Yeah.
Who's going to help you get there? So who's the ideal customer to help you accomplish that?
Yep.
What do they get out of it for helping you, both from a practical point of view and also from an emotional point of view? How are they going to feel about that? What is the statement that you're going to make? What's your promise? How could you support that? What gives you the right to make that statement? And then what's your personality? If I had to draw an analogy, and can you define that in an elevated pitch? And then what's your personality like? Can I draw an analogy? You're like such and such department store or a celebrity or something, so that somebody can look at the DNA and say, "Oh, I get it. You're like Oprah Winfrey."
So the DNA is the foundation on
Foundation.
which you build all your marketing activities around, right?
This is the leader's work plan. And if it doesn't fit, if your activities don't fit within that DNA, don't do them.
Right.
Every time you do something that's outside of the DNA, you erode it. So basically, that's the clarity of vision that I was talking about. So
Some people call it what's your strategic direction, your strategic whatever word, but I like
sure, whatever word you want to do. So I called it
right.
DNA.
Yeah.
And then what I would do is I would create or help them create a set of unbreakable tenets that go along with that,
right,
that your employees agree to. Have them sign it. This is, put your thumbprint on this. This is what we do here. If you don't want to do it, it's a big world out there. You don't have to be here. But this is
right.
what we do here.
Right.
To avoid, so the companies I would deal with weren't individuals, they were entities. What happens in an entity, if the entity gets, as it grows, it develops silos. And everybody wants to be, each silo, so each VP wants approval of daddy's approval, and they're all in competition with each other. And, oh, did you see what marketing did? That's a crock, So production doesn't buy in, and sales doesn't buy in, and the personnel don't. So everybody's going in their own direction. Everyone wants to be the hero. Traditionally, what would happen is the CEO, the marketing guy, would say to the CEO, "Look, Carl, you pay me a lot of money. Let me do my job." And Carl would back down and say, "Well, you're right. Make sure it works." And what would happen is that companies will fall apart because they're not in alignment.
Right.
So you have to have something or some mechanism that can put everything into alignment. So that's what Brand Spa, which was the name of my company, was about. And that's what we would do. And it was a lot of fun, but being a consultant, as you know, If you do a good job, you get fired.
Sooner or later.
Yep. If
I,
you do a
I always
bad,
figured, my clients are temporary. I don't want to hold on to them forever. I'm going to
yeah,
help them as much as I can, and then they're on their own.
right. So
But
you have to keep the churn going. You have to keep getting new clients.
yeah, exactly.
But it was hard because what we're doing is you you're talking about considerable investment. And
Yeah.
what I would get is I would get, well, I don't want to keep paying you retainer forever. So okay, so now I got to go out and get new customers. And it was a hard pitch because it's hard. Change is hard. Changes. Selling somebody on change is difficult.
So at a
So
certain point, when is it that you made your shift from your from brand spa and your marketing career into what you're doing now?
what I was doing. So I was doing that, but I was also still making stuff because I had to make money. So I'm still doing the. I thought that this model was going to be a feeder to get work. Would it did a little bit, but it really didn't. It was really a different thing
Yeah.
from being an advertising agency. It was being I call it a brand marketing consultant.
Yeah.
So I did both. And I hired, people to help sell for me because I'm the creative guy. I'm the widget maker. I'm doing the stuff. So
Yeah.
I need somebody to go out and sell. I could never find success with that. It got
It's very hard to do.
yeah, and it got
Yeah.
very tiring, um, and I kind of the brand spa was more fun than doing the ads because I did the ads for 40 years, and it was like, how many more things are going to make, So this was a whole bigger idea, and it was much more fun than doing individual things. Although I was proud of them, but still, it was. I kind of, I really set myself apart from my competitors from what I had before. I wasn't that anymore. I
Yeah.
was something else. But I started painting. I had painted a long time ago, but I started painting again um, in part time, and I was loving it. I just loved it.
Well, I
And
remember, Alan, I hadn't heard from you in some time.
yeah,
And then I got an email or something or an announcement, and I discovered you were painting. And then I saw some of your paintings
mhm.
that you'd posted online. And you do what might be called photorealism,
Not
but
anymore. It's changing
not
now.
anymore. What's that?
It's changing now.
I'm sure it
I'm
morphs, but
always I'm an ordinary visionary. So I'm okay. So I did photorealism because it was in my comfort zone, but uh, I proved to myself that I could do that.
right.
But I always felt that I was kind of dictated to. I would take pictures, and I'm skilled in the computer, so I would take pictures. I manipulate the pictures until I would make what I call a maquette or a blueprint for what I was going to do, and then I would copy what I was going to do. So the art part of it was in what am I shooting? How am I manipulating it to a point where I feel it's going to good material to make a painting from?
Talk about how you chose your subjects. I mean, essentially, what I wrote down is he paints the bones of New York City,
Yeah.
and it's the girders and the buildings and the
Okay.
light that's hitting them, and you see these things in a whole different way, and it's just amazing stuff.
So let
Why did you
me.
settle on that? I mean, there's so many top things you can paint, obviously.
Well, I would say that every artist in every endeavor is autobiographical. You're pulling from your uh, reference, your frame of reference. Who are you? and different than what I was describing before as a service business. Art is completely different. You're not making work to suit the customer because you don't know. And if
No.
you did, it wouldn't be yours.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be yours. So basically, what you're doing is you're now, you know that Neil Simon song. You know, I went to a garden party. You know, and I learned that you can't please everyone, so you might as well please yourself.
Oh, yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
art is. Art is a deep dive into who you are
Yeah.
and discovering and all the time going deeper and pulling apart layers of the onion to kind of reveal yourself. It's a gas. It's addictive, but you can't figure it out. If you try to figure it out, it's not art anymore. So,
Yeah.
um, so my original stuff was basically learning how to be an artist. And look at that. Look, I did that. It was not that cool. And I would look around for what I thought was cool. And I called it like abstract art in the guise of realism, but it was really photorealism, as you say. But I never wanted to define myself as a photorealist because when I looked at the photorealists and hyperrealists, it left me cold because it was really all about the technique and all about how well it was done, but there was
Right.
no soul in it. So I always look for, well, what's the soul? And when I grew up in Brooklyn in New York City, and I was a city kid, and I grew up near the elevated lines, you know, and I was a child of the '50s, and I loved film noir and that grittiness and the little bit of a danger and living on the edge. You know, I was a night owl. I went to jazz clubs.
You're probably attracted to movies now that have that interesting artistic aspect to them that are
Well, I like a lot of things, but
sure.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I do. I do. Uh, I mean, I don't know. Have you seen what do they call it? Uh, slow horses.
Yes.
Okay.
Slow Horses. We just finished watching the third season. In fact,
Yeah, it was great. uh,
I mean, it's great on every level. The acting, the plot,
well,
the film.
Gary Oldman is just
Yeah.
incredible. I mean,
He just won a Golden Globe for his
yeah, I
performance.
know, and he never takes a bath. We never wash it. I love there was this. I don't know if you saw the scene where he goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, yeah, you have to stop drinking. He said, I don't drink that much. He says, well, how much did you have this week? He says, oh, maybe 10 pints. and he says, you got to stop smoking. He says, well, I stopped smoking. He said, well, last time you had a cigarette, just 27 minutes ago. But anyway, that stuff excites me, and I love it. And I would go around my camera, and I would go, ooh, look at that. That would be cool to paint. So I was in Chicago. I had done. Oh, I started doing gears when I first. Well, I was looking for what I wanted to paint. I didn't know what I wanted to paint, and I um, was stuck behind a couple of 18 wheelers in the rain on a secondary road, and you know how you can't see around them, and the water splashing on your windshield, and you feel very claustrophobic. And I said, well, maybe I can capture that. Maybe I can do that. And I tried, but I didn't have any photographic reference. I was just doing it from sense memory, and it sucked. It was a terrible painting. It just didn't do what I wanted it to do.
Right.
But I started running around to truck stops. I said, oh, truck. Well, they're interesting. So I started running around, and I would take reference, and I found myself attracted to the details, the grills and the exhaust stacks and the machismo stuff. And I started making I made a bunch of paintings based on those.
And those are often sort of close-ups of a part of the truck, or
Yeah, close
not
ups.
like a truck from the distance, but the detail of it, of the grill and the
Right.
this and that.
I had done some trucks in the distance, and they were very nice. But
Yeah.
when I was going around the truck stops, it was like the light assemblies and the horns and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. It was like kind of cool, attracted me. And I did a bunch of those, and I said, "Oh, I'll be the guy who paints the trucks. I'll put a truck in everything." Um, but that was like I still had my marketing mentality. I had this, you know, oh, they'll like this. I'm doing it for them. And then I got gallery representation with a pretty good gallery, but he wasn't selling the stuff. So I said, well, I have to serve them, so maybe the stuff is too big. Let me do some smaller stuff. So what can I do? So I started doing close-ups of pocket watch mechanisms, old pocket watches with the swirly stuff in it. And to me, they were kind of abstract shapes. They weren't so much about the watch; they were about the shapes and the colors. And I did a few of those, but they got after doing maybe 6 or 7 of them, they kind of started to look all the same. I said, well, gears. What other kind of things can I do like that? And I found a close-up of a Harley Davidson motorcycle engine with the baffles, the vents, and then a bluing on the
But
exhaust pipe.
they're works of art in and of themselves, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah.
So the gallery said, you want to have a show? And I said, well, how many paintings do I need for a show? They said, well, maybe a dozen. So I said, well, I'll do a dozen Harley Davidson engine paintings. So it's a series. And I did. But they fired me in the middle before they gave me the show, and
Why?
we just had a falling out.
Huh.
So I was stuck with all these paintings. What am I going to do with them now? So I came up with Allan Gorman's Ready to Rumble Roadshow, and I pitched it to somebody said, why don't you go to Harley Davidson? I said, well, because I worked with corporate America, and I know there's a vice president whose job it is to say no, and if he says no, then it's no. So I'll go around them. I'll go to the dealers, their franchises, and they can do what they want. So I kind of drew a little radius. I didn't want to travel more than a day. I wanted to go and come back. And I found there were Harley Davidson dealers. There was one on every block. I mean, there are millions of them. So I pitched them, and I did like a dozen pop-up shows at Harley Davidson dealers. And I would stand there with my paintings, and it was a sideshow. They would have Harley was pretty good at marketing to their members. They know who their customers are.
Yeah.
It wasn't
I
about
mean,
motorcycles.
Harley owners are a cult.
It's a cult, yeah.
In a sense.
So they would have, a rally that they were going to go climb this mountain, so to get the bikers into the dealership so that they could sell them stuff. So I would be there when they had one of these events, Toys for Tots drive or whatever. As were other vendors. They would have people who sold patches and people who sold clothing items and pinstripers and, paintings. And so I would be there, and people would look at and they would go, "Whoa, that looks like it costs money. I'm not going over there." But I would build my mailing list. I got a lot of followers on my mailing list.
Do you sell some paintings that way?
No, I never sold a one. And
No?
I felt no, and I did like a dozen of these things, and so dealers would say, "You're going to give me one," So I would give away prints. I would, I would, and I started. I didn't want to be known. I wasn't a biker. and I felt like I'm a bit of a phony because I'm not part of this culture. I don't. I
Right.
mean, I understand the attraction of it, and it could be cool to try to be, get out there in the fresh air and on a bike with some power under you and be a Hell's Angel for a weekend. Um, but I understood the attraction, but I wasn't part of it, and I didn't want to be. And I kind of said, well, I don't belong here. Um, so
It reminds me of everything I ever did in my business. Oh, I'll try this. I'll put this out here. I'll do this. Whatever.
exactly, just try stuff.
I mean, that's what an ordinary visionary does. You think of an idea,
You
but
try
most
it.
people's ideas turn around in their head and you don't do anything. You got out there, you tried something, you discovered, yeah, it's not for me, and then on to the next,
And
right?
I'm still doing it. I'm still doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway, what happened is I needed to get away from. I didn't want to be boxed as a gearhead and somebody who, because there are people who paint that stuff. They paint cars and they paint motorcycles, and they're grouped there, and I become known for that. And I was becoming known for that, and I don't want to be known for that because I am not that.
yeah.
So I was basically saying, okay, well, I'm just painting the shapes and the colors and the abstraction of it. They're not about motorcycles. I mean, I don't care about motorcycles. I mean, they're really all works of art. Yeah, I went on a tour of a factory, uh, one of the factories that makes like four different models. Robert, they put 27 coats of paint on the yeah, and every bike is different.
27?
27
Really?
coats. Yeah, and every bike that comes off the assembly line is different. Every one.
Wow.
It's a different paint job. It's got different, and they vary it. And because each owner wants to have his own thing,
Right.
they want their own statement, and then they customize it and they buy all sorts of stuff, and they spend a lot of money. So somebody at a Harley Davidson dealer said, you know what HD stands for? I said, no, what? He said, $100. Every time I come in here, it costs me $100. I gotta buy oil. I gotta buy, and you go in the dealer, and they got clothes for kids. I mean, they got. It's like, they know what they're doing. Um,
So what was your next step?
so anyway, I would look around. I would look on Pinterest, and I would look on Flickr, and I would look for ideas.
Yeah.
And I came across a picture of a monstrosity engine, this thing that it was called a Holly steam engine, and it was the largest triple action pump engine ever made, and there are five of them that exist in a pumping station up in Buffalo, New York. The pictures that I saw were all professional photographers' pictures, and I'm not going to be able to get permission from them to paint their IP. So I said, okay, well, I'll go up and paint my own. I'll take my own pictures. And it turned out that there was only one day a year that they would let people in this facility because it was defunct. It doesn't work anymore. So these things
Oh,
they were built in 1915. They were 60 feet tall, each one. And they were, steampunk stuff. So I said, well, I got to paint that. So I talked Susan into taking a trip with me. She didn't want to go to Buffalo. So I said, okay, so you know what? We'll go to the Finger Lakes and we'll have a nice B&B weekend. And then I'll go into Buffalo for the day and I'll take pictures. And okay. So we did. And it was fascinating. And it was a really interesting facility. And then I wanted to paint it, but I wanted to do it justice, so I needed to do a big painting. So I arranged to go away in residency in Vermont and get a big studio. And I painted a painting that was 9 feet tall by about 6 feet wide.
what's the dimensions again?
9 feet, well, 8.5 feet by 6 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's big. But it was this month. It was a big. Again, that machismo stuff. um, then I had this painting, and it was like a cathartic painting. And from that, I kind of flipped a switch. I'm not going to do things that I think other people are going to like anymore. I'm just going to do what I like, and if they
Yeah.
like it, they like it. If they don't like it, then that's fine too. I'm not going to worry about that,
Yeah.
right? Because I've got to please myself. So it was a lesson, and it was cathartic. And then I had this thing, and I said, "What am I going to do with it now? I don't know. I don't know." So I called up art consultants in Buffalo, and the first one I hit, I said, "Do you know anybody at the Albright Knox Museum? Because this is Buffalo centric. I'm in the New York City area. Nobody's going to know what it is. But up there, they will." So she said, "Well, no, but I'm working on a proposal for a corporate client. Maybe I can include it in my proposal." I said, "Okay." So it went to Price Waterhouse Coopers in their reception area. They were building a new um, branch up there. So, so okay, cool. And I got a decent price for it. So it was
So that was the first big piece of art that you sold.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then,
5 or 10 million,
yeah, I don't know.
if only.
Yeah, $50. No, it was like $12,000. It was nice. Um, but so then I started, going crazy and getting nuts with the art, and um, as I said, my biggest client was going through some regime change. I had him for 25 years, 27 years. And I just got tired. And it was like, okay, what would happen if I didn't do this anymore? And I was getting like retirement age. And the answer was, you won't die. I said, oh, I have my FU money? Well, okay, FU.
Say that again. You had what?
I have my screw you money. I'm supposed to screw you. I'm going to go do what I want now. And I closed up the shop and I started painting full time. And now I have a new career, and it cost me a fortune.
And it cost you a
It
fortune?
cost me a fortune. Yeah. So I lose money every year. I make it up in volume.
Yeah, well,
So,
you could also be one of those people whose works of art sell for zillions years after your death. I suppose that
it
happens.
could happen. It could happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with this stuff is you keep accumulating it, and what do you do with it? And then whoever is responsible for disposing of my estate, I feel sorry for them, because it's hard. Being an artist is impossible. It's an impossible um, career. But
Yeah,
it,
along with musicians, right? I mean, geez,
well, no, poetry's about worse.
poetry's even worse.
Poetry, no, or dancer. I mean, you could be a dancer, ballet dancer. You have 6 years and that's it. That's then you teach. Um, so no, I love it, and I have a studio in a magnificent art uh, building called Mana Contemporary. There are about 250 artists in the building, and many of them are blue chip, world class artists. My next door neighbor is $1 million artist. I'm hoping maybe some pixie dust will fall off. But, I asked her, I said, "What are you working on?" She said, "Well, I'm getting ready for a show in Japan." I said, "Are you having fun?" She said, "No." Because the pressures, once you get that big, you're like, okay, you have to have 8 paintings done by June, and her paintings are like 10 feet high. I mean, they're giant. You know, it's it's a business. So
Well, you're in an interesting situation. I mean, you you don't need the money. You're
no,
settled for your retirement.
yeah,
You love what you're doing.
Yeah,
You want to sell paintings, and you're selling some here and there.
yeah.
But it's interesting, you know.
I'm in the best time in my life. Um, there's nothing I would rather do than what I'm doing,
Right.
uh, and I can do this until I can't. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
People retire, and I feel bad for them. I mean, I say, well, I didn't retire. I just went to do something else. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm an ordinary visionary. I'm always doing something else. I'm always doing something new.
Right.
Uh, you said in the beginning, a photorealist painter. Uh, so, um, as I said, I had an issue with being defined as photorealistic, although I used photographs to paint from. But there was something always annoying at me in that. Okay, you're a jazz lover. Painting from the photograph, I'm painting from the sheet music. You know,
Right.
which is
Right.
okay. And you know, while you're painting, you could take some license and you could change it a little bit. But
Sure.
basically,
Sure.
it's got to be that tune because I've got that tune in front of me. And I always kind of looked at people who didn't do that, and a lot of them, a lot of it, abstract art's crap. But
Yeah.
also some's really good.
Often very popular for unknown reasons.
No,
The abstract, really abstract stuff.
but abstraction or nonlinear paintings or nonlinear art. So what I learned by painting is I learned more and more about me and who I am
Yeah.
as an individual, what makes me me. And that's kind of when you're doing it, when you're making music, when you're writing, when you're acting, when you're painting, whatever it is you're doing, it's an individual endeavor. And when you're in the zone, nothing else, there is nothing else. You shut everything else gone, and you're just concentrating on what you're doing,
Yeah.
what's in front of you. And you're not thinking, that voice that's always judgment, it's not there. It's immediate.
Yeah.
So I really was a big fan of abstract expressionism from the 60s, the New York artists who said, why does it have to be about anything? Why can't it just be about what I feel? Why can't it be about me? And so uh, most recently, I was visiting a museum and I saw a sculpture that was a glass maze,
Hmm.
and some of the glass was sandblasted, and some was colored, and and it was stacked up at right angles. And as I looked through the glass, I noticed how it kind of distorted and diffused what you saw through them and what was reflected in it. And so I took some reference photos and I started to make some paintings from the reference photos, like I did everything else. And I really liked them, and the palette changed. It was much softer than what most of my paintings are very bold and very hard edge and hard lines,
Yeah.
cityscapes, all about shadows and light. Um, but these were much more subtle, and I love the subtle shifts in tonal value because the diffused glass softened the edges. And so that's really interesting. And kind of dawned upon me, well, I don't really need a photograph to do that. I can do that um, in my imagination from my own. I'm a designer. I could design my own. So I'm still making what I call maquettes or architectural blueprint, but I'm not doing it from photographs anymore. I'm doing it from my own my own doing,
Yeah.
uh, and I'm kind of excited about that because it's more me. It's not informed by something somebody else did. It's informed purely from me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it's going. So
That's your next step. Do you
that's
have
my
any
next
of
step.
those posted on your website? Those new ones, or are you just starting those?
Yeah, there are, and I'll send you the newest thing I just did. I'm working on a triptych, and that's almost done. In that vein,
Great.
yeah. So
Well, we'll post your website with a link. You've got a gallery of a ton of pictures up there.
there's a whole lot to look through.
Yeah.
Also, you mentioned giveaway booklet or free this or free that for your viewers. I'm going to. I love building my mailing list
Sure.
and getting people who are interested in my work, and I like recruiting new fans. So uh, if anybody wants to, they can subscribe to my newsletter, which is I'm not like you. I don't send a newsletter every week, but I do send out announcements and on a
Yeah, I
timely
love getting your
basis.
announcements.
Yeah,
It's one of my favorite emails I get because there's always another picture in it, and I go, "Oh, that's so cool."
yeah, and I try not to be a pain in the butt. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but
Oh,
I mean I am, but I'm not. Uh, uh,
you're not obnoxious about it.
I'm not. I try not to be obnoxious, but one of the things I learned to do is well, I when uh, you admired a piece of work and I sent you a print of it.
Yes. Yes.
So I'll do all the emails from all your millions of viewers.
Yeah. Well, not
I'll
millions yet.
no. What I'll do is I'll take and I'll record all them. I'll keep them only from this uh, uh,
Right.
blog and oh, I'm sorry, vlog, video log.
Right.
Um, I'll compile them and then I'll run them through a random number generator, and some lucky soul will get a free print.
Great. Great.
Okay, so
I'll put the information. Make sure the link is right where they can sign up for the newsletter. You have a
actually,
form on the page that they can sign up.
there's a form on my website, but probably best to put my email
Just send an email.
and just
Okay.
send me an email. That way, I'll keep track. It'll be easier
Okay.
for me to keep track. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Okay. And so,
So,
anything else you want to know?
yeah, let's kind of sum up things. The thing that I got about, uh, it sounds like working with me was a bit of a turning point for you. I'm not
Oh,
selling
it
my
absolutely. It
services.
was cathartic. It was great.
Yeah, that's always nice to hear. But I'm not selling my services anymore. So, your whole transition into art I'm in my first 6 months of retirement, in which I'm doing a lot of writing and thinking
No, you became a writer and a philosopher.
and a philosopher,
Right. Okay. And
whatever that is.
and a salesperson for ChatGPT.
Yeah. Yeah, I love ChatGTP. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I
Well,
just read an interest.
there are artists who are using AI, but I will not use it. I just
Yeah,
feel
it,
like that's not making art. that somebody
Yeah,
else is making it.
that's fine for some things,
Yeah.
but you want to do the arting, you want to do the
Exactly. I want it to
painting,
come from me. I don't want it to come from some machine.
yeah, yeah. So, but then you started to shift the way you worked with clients and had them look at a bigger picture instead of we need this ad, we need this. So things expanded, your vision expanded, and ultimately you transitioned into doing what you do now. So if there's one big ordinary visionary lesson you would want to impart to people, what would it be?
Hmm. Take the plunge. Follow your gut and take a shot. And if it doesn't work out, do something else. I mean, that's you know,
It's
uh,
kind of like that, isn't it? Well, the thing
yeah.
that really struck me, Alan, is
Oh, okay. Let me back up. When
you
I had
wanted
an,
to do something that was really you,
I
that
did,
was really your thing,
I
as
did,
opposed to
but let me give you the ordinary visionary
yeah,
2 cents. When I had
sure,
an advertising agency, I could make no guarantees. I didn't know what would happen,
sure,
but I could guarantee what will happen if you do nothing.
exactly,
Yeah, that's it. I don't know where things will lead. I don't know if I'll be listed in the annals of the great world's greatest artists. But I know if I don't try, ain't nothing gonna happen.
yeah.
And I
You
know
know,
if I don't make it, it's not gonna get made.
exactly. I think the thing that stops so many people is a fear of failure. It's like, oh, it won't work. I have these ideas. And the idea gets this big, and then it's just like, I just,
Well, there's always an excuse. I don't have the money. I don't have the thing. I mean, look, what I do. I mean, well, I, I just made a painting for a show. Not my show. It's for another show. It's for a show in the fall.
yeah,
But the show's called Picturing Light. So when the curator told me about Picturing Light, I said, "Oh my God, now you're talking." So I gave her a bunch of people who I know who make art with light, and she invited me to be in it. But I'm a painter, so well, it's going to be Coney Island in there. It's going to be like, all sorts of like bling bling. So I better do. So I had a painting that I was planning on doing, which was an architectural painting. But I said, well, maybe if I crop it, it was a bank ceiling, and the bank ceiling was kind of like really interesting lighting design in it, to a point where it's completely abstract. And I was looking through into the bank, like a very high end bank, and it had this beautiful kind of light in the ceiling, and then it was a revolving door, and you could see a little reflection of some construction around the corner, and the revolving door uh, distorted some of the light from the ceiling. So I did a diptych. I did two panels that were 5 feet by 5 feet. So this painting is 5 feet by 10 feet, and I'm gonna get. I've just commissioned somebody to make me a custom-made Art Deco-ish connecting strip between the two paintings to hold two paintings together. So there's a little three-dimensional stuff.
oh,
I mean, it probably cost me by the end of the day a couple of $1,000 to make this piece of artwork. And I don't know what's going to happen with it after that, but I had to do it. Yeah, you just got to
maybe
do it.
somebody watching this will buy it. You never know.
Well, you know what? I mean, the gallery that I'm still in touch with the gallery that we parted company, and it's a good gallery. And he came to me just recently. He had some collector who is interested in some of my work, and she buys multiple paintings, and but she doesn't want to pay more than X amount of dollars, and she likes to pay it out. I said, okay, well, if she buys 5 or 6 of them, and you want to make a deal, we'll make a deal. But so I showed him this, and he said, "Oh, that's great. Well, I'm going to Miami, and let me show it to some people." He said, "What do you want for it?" And I said, "You know what, John? I didn't do it for commerce. I have no idea. I don't know. But I mean, what would you think?" And he said, "Well, I would probably ask 50, 65K for it." Okay, you can get it, fine. But what I'm doing now, I think, has much more. But what's a one-off? It's hard to sell that kind of stuff. Who has room for that? Maybe a corporate lobby, maybe, but those corporate lobbies and that kind of work comes from art consultants, art advisors. So I've got to cultivate that uh, avenue. Those people.
I had a
Um,
client that did that once.
mhm.
She was an art broker. She had a lot of artists she sold to corporations.
Yeah, but there are
Very,
there, there there are there are people who do that who have corporate contract. They work for big developers, and they need something for the lobby and
yeah,
stuff like that. Then that work pays good money. That's good.
yeah.
Galleries are hard because galleries are like,
As long as you don't sell your soul, right?
well, you have to. I mean, a little bit. You're gonna, if you do a commission, you're going to sell your soul because you're. The problem with commissions is you're always, you're trying to please somebody else's taste.
Right.
And if I say blue, you see blue, but I don't know what blue you see. I mean, it's a different blue. So
So, Alan, great, great talking to you.
you too, Robert. And
Getting a picture of what you're up to.
I'm really really so glad that you're a part of my life and
Thank
that
you.
we met. And you're you're one of a kind. You certainly are an extraordinary visionary yourself. So good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Okay.